If you're hanging out already, thanks for coming by. Got a lot of things going on. I'm restreaming to Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, and Facebook. So that's a first for now. I tested a little bit last night. It didn't go so well. So a little bit of a test right now as well. See how this works. Cool. Thanks so much. Again, thanks for watching on Facebook. I just turned the page back on. Oh, thank you so much for the like on Facebook. That's cool. I just turned that page back on. It was off for a while. Kind of hadn't done anything. My website was really out of date. So I've been working a lot on the website, AxeFxTutorials.com, and trying to format it before I start adding articles and things like that. So putting like the blocks and information, and then any article I make in the future will go to the correct block and section and things like that. Hey, from Denmark, what's up? How do you cope with less power compared to the AxeFX3? We're currently looking at FM3 edit. This is my current preset, and it's sort of maxed out. Now, I'm running version 1.03, which is the latest release version for the FM3, and it's hovering around 80%, which is close to the max. It was lower. Right now, what they're trying to do is get all the qualities of all the AxeFX3 blocks into the FM3. The FM3 sort of launched with a few of the latest things on the AX3. They weren't in there. So they're trying to get it all in the FM3, and that's a little challenging with CPU and everything. Here is the FM3. This is my current preset. I have a few scenes. I'll run through it real quick. If you haven't seen any of my streams or videos before, I use a Majesty Ernie Ball guitar, and it has an acoustic pickup in it. So the acoustic sounds like this. This isn't a simulation. This is the guitar. So if you see this bottom area here, that's what that is. That's the acoustic in. Anyway, that's my FM3 preset. It has some cleans, clean lead, some grit stuff, and a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, so that's the FM3. Of course, the AX3 came out first, and I started with that. And this is what my AX3 preset looks like. You can see I have a reverb block in the AX3 version, and I don't have it on the FM3. I was messing around with a, shimmer verb on here and things like that. So that got me on the AX3 up to 70%. When you're going to the FM3, you already know you have less CPU. So you kind of have to approach it already going in knowing that you're going to cut some stuff out. I have a compressor block here. Do I have it on the... I don't. Yeah, see? So you're going to have to... If you're trying to, one-to-one, take your AX3 preset and put it directly on the FM3, you're probably going to have to cut some things out. You can drag now an AX3 preset onto the FM3 edit, and it'll add as much as it can, but there's fewer columns and rows, and some blocks just don't even exist on the FM3. So that's something to think about. Just like I said, going in, there's going to be a difference. You're just going to have to cut out some blocks. So on the AX3, I have the comp block, the compressor before everything for my electric sound. I just take that out. I think I use the amp block. Again, I know this is the AX3, but there's a dynamics in the amp block. I think I use that on the FM3 instead of a full compressor block. From there, I don't add the plex delay or the tremolo I have on it. I don't add the reverb, but pretty much everything else is there. So I'm going to slide away the AxeFX3 again real quick. And clearly it's less populated. There's less things. But I have the core tone and pretty much all the effects I need for my gig in this. And I could still probably add one block, like another chorus or delay if I need to. But what's cool about the FM3, especially if you're comparing it to something like the AX8, some of the older AX2 generation stuff, there are 4 channels now, which I'm sure you know if you're coming from the AX3, versus XY. The AxeFX2 and the AX8 only had 2 channels, if you will, X and Y, and this is channels A through D on many blocks. So that keeps the CPU down for me on the FM3 already. So in my delay block, for example, I have this always on delay way in the back, just something to kind of fill up as I'm playing. So you can't hear it while you're playing, but it's there. It's kind of a common thing. On channel B, I have the 8th note delay. And where am I? So that U2 thing, the typical whatever. On C, I have my lead delay. And that's a stereo delay, so it kind of sounds a little bit different in the left and right. So right there, I think I don't use channel D yet. I have no 4th delay. But A through C already gets me what I needed to do with 2 delay blocks on the older gear. Again, if we're comparing to the AxeFxTutorials, it's just about half the power. That's a rough statement. Don't quote me on that. I'm not saying it's exactly half CPU, but it's close for like estimation. What's cool about the FM3 is that adding the amp block really doesn't add any CPU. I think it's 0.1% just for the graphics of it, but it has a dedicated CPU for the amp block. So does the AxeFxTutorials, but just on the FM3 that doesn't factor in. I believe the cab block as well has its own accelerator, I think they call it, and that also doesn't like use up CPU when you add it or use it, just slightly, like 0.1 or 3%. I made a chart, I don't remember off the top of my head. But so amp and cab, which you're pretty much going to use on a modeler for the most part, don't really take up too much CPU. You do start at like 11% use. That's for all the graphics and everything else. So, you know, you don't have 100%. Usually 80% or so is the usable range on the FM3. But for the most part, if you approach it like, I need my core amp and cab tones, of course, if you're full modeling, and then maybe a drive pedal if that's, you know, part of my tone, that's important. And from there, you kind of add what you need. Delay, pretty important. Some type of effect like phaser or chorus, you know, something to, again, just give you your tone and what you need. But if you're looking to do reverb blocks and shimmer verb and this and that, you will have to scale back a little bit on the FM3. And that's just the reality. It's made to be a portable device. It's made to fit in your backpack and get to the gig. And with that, it has a little less CPU. So something to consider, something to keep in mind. But like I said, except for these extraneous sort of shimmer verb and reverb blocks, and I use this reverb as a big, like long reverb echo sort of cavernous thing, I don't need that. So I didn't add it. But what I do use for that is this multi-delay block, and I set it to diffuser. And what it does is this. So if I play, so the multi-delay block uses much less CPU than a reverb. Like reverbs use a lot just because there are tons and tons of mini delays. So the multi-delay can, you know, take care of that for you. And I put a filter block on it so it kind of goes wah, wah, wah. Are you using song per preset? I don't, so I'm using 10 presets and I'm on the RGM22. Yep. Yep. So how do you cope with the live situation with just the FM3? Okay, yeah, so I'm going to be working on a video soon. I've been writing it for quite a while. It's like definitions and then how to set up foot switches. I'll go through it a little bit right now, of course. So the FM3, only 3 switches, and of course that's way fewer than 22 on your RGM GT22. I had a GT16, it was great. I had to sell it at the time, I wasn't really using it. I definitely want one again. Maybe the 22, I mean, that's a lot of switches. So again, it's sort of like the same thing. If you're coming from the AxeFX3 with tons of blocks and the GT22, or yeah, GT22 with tons of switches, clearly at the beginning, you know you're already going down to 3 switches, fewer blocks, maybe 70% of the blocks. So again, that's the sort of issue that you would face coming down to something like the FM3, which is smaller. I mean, it's a physical thing. It's not bad. It's just, it's smaller. So you have to just deal with it. I personally use one preset, generally speaking, per gig. It might be a different preset on different gigs, but most of the time it is just this preset here that you see. And right now I have my switches set to default. But there's a few ways to kind of overcome just 3 switches. And a bunch of other people have videos on this. But here's my view on it. Let's see, how do I approach this? This is kind of a big topic. I'm trying to squish it in kind of quickly. Let's start with the default layouts. How do you get use of 3 switches to do a bunch of things? So what we can do is start with the default layouts, and maybe it'll be easier if we show them here. In my opinion, the default layouts are great because they do a lot of things. You can access pretty much every single area, if you want to call it, on the FM3, but they're separated. And to me, that's if there's an issue with the default presets, like for gigging, it's that. It might work for some situations, but in my opinion, it's not the best for like overall gigging. It's great for overall getting to everything, like I said. I mean, it's so hard to cram all of that into just 3 switches, and the guys did it. But there are better ways, depending on what you do, and that's the problem. It all depends on what you do. So the only thing I can do is show you how I do it, and then go from there. Hopefully you can get some ideas on how to do it for you. So anyway, the default layouts, which are the Footswitch layouts, start like this. The first one is presets. So actually, let me jump to an area where it might make more sense. Here we have the 3 switches, and right now it's in preset mode. So if I press the switch, it changes preset. And as you can see, you can only put 3 presets at a time on the front panel or on the foot switches. And to jump to another bank of presets, right now there are banks of 3, you hold the right switch to bank up, it changes, and you can do that. So already there, if you're jumping around presets, and you said you have 10, so that's 3 sets of 3 plus 1 extra. With this method, yeah, you can get to them. Oh, let me go to the next one and, go that way. But it might be a little slow. So if you change presets during the song, that might be difficult if your presets are like you're going from preset 1 to preset 10. With only 3 switches, to get from 1 to 10, you're going to have to bank down, and then get to it, or whatever it is. So that's something you want to improve, but that's how the default layout does it. Now, from here, if you use scenes, you can jump to the second layout, which is here. And to do that on the switches, you hold the middle switch. It goes to the master layout menu, and then you press the switch for scenes or effects or things like that. But right here, like I said, this is kind of where the default layouts aren't the best for certain things, because let's say I want to get to channels, which is layout 4. Well, there's only 3 switches. I have to do the master layout menu, hold the middle switch, then hold the right switch to go up. Then, let's say we wanted to do looper instead. Then go to the looper and press that. And now I'm in looper, and I can loop, but now I want to go to scenes, so now I have to hold the middle switch, then press the second switch to go to scenes, and now I'm here. So the default layouts are great, I think, for learning the unit, learning what it does, and in some situations it can work for performance, but pretty much immediately you want to change the layouts to do what you need to do. So fortunately, there are a lot of ways to do that, and a lot of benefits from what the switches can offer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe out this presets layout right now. Is it here? Edit, clear? Reset layout. So we're just going to reset this one. We're going to get rid of it. Okay, so now it's completely blank. If we look on the switches, they're gone, right? So what I would do, and I'm going to cover this in my video, is you kind of need to look at your presets, figure out what you do during the gig. I would write down what you do most of the time and what's important. So as you can see, I have a bunch of things. Now, I know what I do in this preset. So one thing I do a lot is I change from scene 1 and scene 2. It's my lead and rhythm. So here's my rhythm sound, which I played before. And then I often switch to my lead sound, my clean lead. So I know that's important, so I'd probably write that down first. Scene 1 is important, scene 2 is important. From there, I tune a lot. I tune after every song, so I need the tuner. I also switch to scene 3. Sometimes I switch to scene 6, which is my scene 76. Scene 6, which is my high gain lead, things like that. So I start listing them out. One thing that the FCs, of course, can do this. I know the GT22 can do this, and the FM3 can also do this. If we go back to our switches, I always switch from scene 1 and scene 2, right? So what I could do, and this is not the best way to do it, but as an example, I go to scene, and we'll make the first switch scene 1. I'm going to just use the numbers because you don't know what the names of my switches are. And then let's just copy that over to this one. We're going to change this one to scene 2. So as you can see now, I've made switch 1 scene 1 and switch 2 scene 2, and that does what I need, you know. But I've already used up 2 of the 3 switches, so that's not the best way to do it. But you have to remember, each switch has a tap function. Can't see that. Each switch has a tap function and a hold function. So for the 3 switches, you know, physical on the unit, you have 2 functions at least per switch. So that's 6 things we can do. In addition to that, it helps to start using some of the smarter functions like toggle. So scene, right now all I'm doing is selecting. If I press this switch, I turn on scene 1, but now this switch is useless. It only goes to scene 1 and I'm already there. I'm not going to use it again. So I'm going to use the toggle. We're going to scene toggle between 1 and 2. There's that. So now we can clear this one because we already have scene 1 and 2 there. And now with the same switch, I can switch between scene 1 and 2. You want to start looking at these types of functions like toggle, where you can get 2 things out of 1 switch. So right now I'm switching 2 scenes, but I've only used 1 of the 6 functions on these switches, tap and hold for 3 switches, right? Another thing I do, and this works for me and this doesn't work for everybody else, but I put another scene toggle on the same switch. And so we'll do that, scene toggle. And in this case, I go between scene 3 and 6. Those are the most used scenes on my gig of this preset. So now what I've done, and let me change this to number because that doesn't make sense to anybody else. So now on this switch, if I tap each time, I get scene 1 or 2. Here's scene 1, scene 2. Now from either of these scenes, if I hold the switch, I'm doing the hold function, which goes to scene 3, right? The hold function is scene 3, and the primary scene is the first scene it'll go to, you know, if you're not on that function. So like if I'm on scene 1 or 2 and hold it, I'll go to 3. If I'm on 3 and tap this function, it'll go to 1. It'll never automatically go to 2. It'll never automatically go to 6. That's what the toggle function is. Anyway, so scene 3, if I hold it, I get there. Here's scene 3. Now from here to get to scene 6, this is where it won't work for everybody, but it's fine for me. I have to be on scene 3 first, then I hold the switch again, which activates the toggle concept. So it's toggling between 3 and 6. I have to be on 3 to get to 6. If I hold again while I'm on scene 3, now I'm on scene 6. So there's scene 6, and then I can tap again and get back to scene 1. 1 switch, 4 scenes, and that's all the tones I need for most gigs. If I absolutely need to get to scene, what did I use, 4 or 5, I can add switches or do some other things. But with a smaller, you know, unit here with less switches, you're going to have to start thinking about those sorts of things, or just adding an FC6, or add your GT22 if you want. Clearly that defeats the whole going smaller thing, but it would work. You can do that. So if you absolutely need that many switches for like quick access to things, you might just have to add switches. If you can get away with tap and hold or like using the toggle and things like that to kind of save space, then yeah, you can use this. So on many gigs, I just use the FM3 with these switches, and I'm just going to set up quickly what I normally do. So let me see. Can I copy this? Yeah, copy. I usually put this here, actually. And then on this one, I do... What do? I do the effect, and I change it to my multi-delay. I know this goes off screen, but you'll see it. Multi-delay, and on that one, I do effects. I turn on my dotted delay. Delay 1, channel B. Okay, and on this one, I know I do tuner. It's been a while. I haven't gigged in a couple months, so it's not really fresh, but utility tuner. And then I forgot what I put here. Sometimes I put tap tempo, sometimes I do something else. So we'll just put tap tempo for now because I can't think. But for many of my gigs, just this will do it for me. What I can do is do all my scene changes like I just did, and then I can turn on that multi-delay with this button. So I'll be playing. All right, so what I'll be doing is playing, and then I'll roll in the volume pedal for the electric guitar sound. So that's both the acoustic and the electric. And then what I'll do is I'll turn on, I guess we can get out of this mode. I'll turn on the multi-delay so it does the whole longer, phasey, chorusy thing or whatever. What's up, ostrich? Again, this is my example. I have 4 scenes there, one effect that I use all the time. If I hold this, it changes the delay to the dotted eighth. I can tap tempo to change, to the song. And I can tune if I hold it. I can tune, which I just did. And there's that. So with just 3 switches, I have those 6 functions. Now that works for me. Again, I think this is a pretty full preset. If I run through all the sounds, I have a good range of sounds from clean to high gain and things like that. But if you're using presets, again, you're going to have to kind of change the approach and use preset switches instead. Another thing you can do is use views, which are sort of groups of switches within the same layout. So a layout has all 12 switches. So there are 9 layouts. Each layout has the 12 switches because 12 is the biggest unit, the FC12. And they go here. Because we only have 3 physical switches on the unit, they developed something called views, so you can move what switches you're viewing at the time. So right now I've used 1 view, just 3 switches. But if I change to view 2, you can see the screens went blank and I have a new set of 3 switches still within the same layout. So it's sort of just it's making sure you don't waste these extra 9 switches available. And that works for the FC6 as well. This is where you sort of think like, well, I want to stick to just the 3 switches so it's the smallest thing possible. But like I showed you earlier with the default layouts, you have to hold switches, press switches, hold more switches to get to where you want to go. So when we listed out our important things, this is where you want to be like, okay, what are the important things? I want to put those first. You want to put those first because they're in the first layout, in the first view, they're always available, they're the easiest to get to. As you go from here, if you're using this view or layout approach, it's going to take longer to get to the next thing. So you want to make sure they're not as important. So put your important things first, then move on. So another way I use this is I use the looper, of course. That causes me to need more switches. Now, right now we're sticking with the built-in 3 switches. So what I'm going to do is change this switch I'm going to get rid of tap tempo. We don't need it right now. I'm going to put the tuner on, okay? So now what I'm going to do here is add a view select. And we're going to select view 2. Now what this does is if I hold this switch, it's going to change to view 2. Now careful, if you're going to do what I did, what I just did. If I hold it, I switch to view 2. Well, now nothing's on view 2, so I can't do anything. So first, let's put a way to go back. So now we're in this second view, this second group of 3 switches, and we'll go there. First thing we want to do is get a way back to the first set of switches. So we'll go to view, and we'll select view 1, because that's where we want to go. So now with nothing else programmed, if I hold this, I get back to view 1, and if I hold it, it goes to view 2. So that's important. You need a way to get back and forth. You can use view 3 or 4, of course, but I just want to keep it simple for now. So we're just adding 3 extra switches, switch functions, by using a view. So it's still blank. Let's add some things. So I want to do the looper in this example. So we'll go to this switch here, and we'll go to looper, and I want record there. And then we'll go to this switch, and we'll put looper, and I want play. And I do like having on this tap function, I like having the looper, what is it, once? Yeah. I like having once, because then when you record and it's playing, instead of hitting stop right when you need it, you can hit once and it'll stop at the end of that loop and you can just sing. So let's see if I can do this. I do have an FC6 attached on the floor just so I can play and not have to tap things. So that's what I'll be using right now, but it's still the same thing. I'm using record and play. So let me just try. So I can't talk while the guitar is playing. I turn it off so the background noise mutes. But what I can do is I'll hit it up here and I'll show that. So once I hit play, I can hit once and it'll stop at the end of the loop. And you can see I'm not playing at all. So watch this. So that's kind of nice. So I do like the once function, and it does just play once. So that's kind of neat. It's a little dirty loop. Oh, I love them. That's not the cleanest loop ever, but you get the point. So I like having that once there. It really helps while gigging. But another thing I do, of course, is you loop something like that, and then you change scenes or presets, and you change to a lead tone. So in order to do that, what I'd have to do is play it. Right now, I'd have to change views to go back down, and change scenes, solo, then change views to go back up. So let me show you what that looks like. Again, I can't talk while the guitar is playing, but I'm going to play the loop, change scenes using just these switches, and show you why this is a struggle. Okay, so I did all of that. I played, I switched views, changed to scene 2 for my lead, which was amazing. You have to admit it. But then at the end of the solo, you have to change back to your clean sound. And then I had to go back to the looper and then stop the loop. It just took so long. So what I thought is, if I'm doing this compact setup, why don't I just put, instead of using once, yeah, it's handy, but what would be even more handy for me is to put another scene toggle here. So here's scene. We're going to go to toggle. And again, I want to toggle between 1 and 2, my clean rhythm and my lead sound. So now just staying in this Footswitch view right now, I can record, I can play, and I can change. Let me change this to numbers. So again, you don't know what my scenes are called. So scene 1 and 2, I can toggle right there, and I don't have to change views. So it's a concept like this again, which helps you consolidate, use less switches. If you've had the AX8 or the FX8, it had a looper view, but you couldn't change any of the switches on there. So you had to do what I just did. And it was kind of my least favorite part of the AX8 using it live, especially for solo or duo gigs, because you had to go to looper mode, start the loop, play the loop, leave the looper mode, change scenes again, go back to the looper to stop it. And that's when you would use, I actually have it here. I used this guy, the MC6 by Morningstar, along with my AX8 often at gigs where I had to loop a lot. I used this. It's just a MIDI controller with a MIDI cable, and you can power it with the USB adapter and cable. But I would add this to the AX8. Again, we're talking about the AX8. And this would change my scene. So I'd leave the AX8 in looper mode, and that wouldn't change for the most part. And then I use this to change my scenes. 1, 2, 3, 4, tuner, tap tempo. I programmed it on this, which was nice. So of course you can add something small like this to the FM3. You know, it's much smaller and more dirty because I've had it longer. But you can add this right alongside it with a MIDI cable. It's the same way you did with any other... Oh, God, I'm all like tangled here. But you can add something like this. Of course, you can add an FC6 for more switches. But again, right now, if we're conceptually sticking with just the three switches on here, you kind of have to make some of these considerations. So what I did earlier was change views to change scenes. Now I can just play it right here. I'm going to record another loop. Again, I'm using the FC6 on the ground just so I can do it while I'm playing. But it would sound something like this. And I'll do some of the scene changes with my hands above here. So let's try that. Yes, nice to see you too, Mr. Matt. What I did is I recorded the loop with this, and without changing views or anything, I went right to my scene changes, and I'll do that again. So I'll hit play. Hey, thanks for the like on Facebook. I'll hit play, change scenes back and forth a bit, and then I can hit play again to stop it, all without changing views to go back to view 1, as you can see. So here it is. So yeah, without changing, you know, if you're a looping guy, now you can put the looper controls right on the same place as your scene controls or preset changes or anything like that. It's kind of a game changer compared to some of the older gear. Now, again, like you had the GT22, I did that with my GT16, of course. I even did that with the MFC on the AxeFx2. You could put the loop and play, record and play buttons, and then have your scene switches and stuff like that. So it's really nice to have that on the FM3, of course the FC series with the AxeFx and that sort of thing. But that's just an example of ways you want to think about consolidating switches, like I said, adding things in views. Like, don't limit yourself. Put your scene switches on your record and play loop view or layout, and then you go back to view 1 and you have a mix of effects, scenes, utility, changing views, things like that. So like I said, the default layouts are great. It's a great way to learn the unit and a great way to get access to everything. Again, with only 3 switches, you kind of have to do it the way they did it to access every single thing. And in my view, they're just a little separated. Scenes are pretty much only scenes. You have a tuner switch up here, but you have to view up twice to get there. You have effects switches, and to get to tremolo, you have to view up a few times. Again, it's just separated, but that's just what it is with as few switches as 3. So as soon as you can, think about what you want to do. Make a list of the important functions, list them in order of importance. I feel that's like a key point there. And then start populating what you need for your gigs and how you do it. There's just no way for me or anyone to recommend for you what to do. I don't know how you play. I don't know what you use. If you give me your preset and maybe tell me what you do, I could try to figure out a foot switch thing, but it really depends on what you like seeing on the floor, where you like the switches laid out compared to each other, and things like that. So foot switch design is super personal, and there's not really much around that. But using these concepts and adding toggles and smart bypass and all these things, again, I'm going to talk about that in the video I hopefully make in the next few days. That's kind of the best way to use it. Again, I'm not knocking the default layouts at all, or the OMG 9 that recently came out. I haven't even talked about that yet. But all of these things are great. It just depends on how you use it, and sometimes the default just isn't the best because it's so separated. Put what you want where you need it. And I'm only harping on that because I see so many people on the forum say, hey, I'm in my default scenes layout here, right? I have master layout and view up and down and have my 3 scenes. But man, I really want a tap tempo here. Am I allowed to put a tap tempo? It's that feeling of like, am I allowed? I've seen that literally asked, like, am I allowed to do that? Yeah, you can do anything you want. You have to lose something if it's full. Like if I want a tap tempo here, I'm going to lose access to scene 3 as it is. I'd put utility, what did I say? Tap tempo? I'd put tap tempo here. So yeah, you're allowed to do that. You can mix anything you want, but then you just have to start making considerations. Earlier, I kind of showed some examples where I only use the 3 switches, right? Now, I'm not set up to demo this right now. You can watch my stand-in switches video for more on this sort of concept, but an easy way to supplement the 3 onboard switches is to use simple switches. This is I don't think they make this anymore. This is from Mission Engineering. Oh, wrong way. It's like a weatherman. This is from Mission Engineering. It's 2 switches, and it also has an expression knob. That's kind of cool. I really don't use that too much. And then there's a simple switch like this, the FS5U from Boss. Very simple switch. You just plug in a instrument cable, and you click the switch, and you can do things. So there's a concept called stand-in switches. On older gear, older fractal gear, there were always sort of pedal or switch inputs on the unit itself, but they were a little limited in what they could do. They could only do what was in the I/O control menu, and it's sort of limited to one block on and off only, increment scenes, that sort of thing. It wasn't really functional as much as like a built-in switch. On the Axe3 generation, the FCs and the FM3, stand-in switches allow you to do anything that a built-in switch does. So with this simple switch, I can program it so that I can start and stop the looper, or I can change between scene 1 and 2. Any of the options we see in this list here, I assign it to a switch, then I assign the external switch as a stand-in, and that external switch will now do that. And what's cool on the FM3, the physical pedal jack can host 2 switches per jack. Hey, Admin Matt, thanks for following on Twitch. So there are pedal ports on the FM3. There's 2 of them. Each jack can host 1 expression pedal with a TRS cable, or 2 switches with a TRS to TS sort of split cable. Or if you have a pedal like this, a unit like this, there's actually a TRS input for both switches on something like this. So 2 switches per jack on the FM3 itself. I always use an expression pedal for my guitar volume. For me, that uses up one of the jacks for the expression pedal. So I have 2 switches available on the FM3 itself without adding another FC6 or another MIDI controller. So I'll do that. So with this example here, where we used a built-in switch to change views, what I'll do is I'll use an external switch like this to change views instead. And then I get that function back. So I could put tap and tuner back on here, and I could change views with this, increase, 1, 2, 1, 2. It'd kind of loop around. Or I could add 2 switches, and I can put tap and tuner on this, tap versus hold, tap, tempo, and tuner, and then use my views on this. That's another thing I do often with just the FM3 and one simple switch like this, or 2 switches, I should say. You can add 2 of these FS5Us from Boss. You kind of link them together. I don't know where my other one is. I have 2. And then you use a stereo or a Y cable to plug it in, TRS. That details all in my stand-in switch video on my YouTube channel, AxeFxTutorials, so go check that out. But that's another simple way. So just this one switch here, in addition to all of the 3 switches on here and all the things you can do, you can expand the usability of it really, really easily using stand-in switches. So that's something really, really important and incredible. And other words that start with in. As I was writing my video, which I still need to make, another thing I thought of is just use the controls on the unit itself. So if we're looking at this is the unit. Of course, with the switches, I can play guitar and change things at the same time. But let's say we were using that example where sometimes I need the looper and sometimes I don't. If I really need tap, tempo, and tuner on this switch, remember we got rid of one of them, so I could use a view, right, like that. If I'm not looping that often, if I'm not changing between views, just bend down before the song and spin the knob and change views. You can do that. If you don't use tap tempo that often, but for that 1 song or 2 songs where you do, just bend down and tap the tempo. If you change presets between songs, but you don't want to put preset switches, and then you use the same preset the entire song, just bend down and change the preset using the nav buttons. That's definitely an option available. With analog pedals, this is why I don't use analog pedals. Between songs, you'd bend down and change the delay time with the knob, and you'd be like, is that right? No, that's not, okay, not quite. Okay, there it is, or use your tape and Sharpies to mark where you want to put the knobs. And between each song, you got to bend down and change them. That's why in the pro rigs, they have like multiple instances of the same pedal, because one is set to one delay time and one is set to another. But you can bend down and adjust these things, change presets before the song if you kind of go up, if you don't want to add a preset switch here. Like I said earlier, when you're arranging your switches, list them in order of importance. I always change between scene 1 and 2 in every song. I pretty much tune after every song. Maybe, we were rushing earlier when we did this. I use the multi-delay a lot in every song. Then I change between scene 3 and 6 often. I do my dotted 8th delay often. And let's say you're a preset guy and you're typing this out and you're like, I change presets. But then you got to think, well, when do I change presets? Do I change presets during a song? If so, then that would probably go up here. If you constantly change presets, you want that higher on the list, and you would make preset switches. But if you don't, and you're like, oh, I only change presets between songs. Well, if you have that time, if you set up a preset switch and you change presets, and then for the next 5 minutes of the song, you don't do it again, maybe you're wasting that switch. Sure, you could change views, whatever, but if you only change presets between songs, actually, just change presets with that. Boom, done. Order of importance is really, really key. I was going to say important again. But really, really think about what you do. If it's like, oh, I change between the looper and the scenes once every song, maybe you can bend down, maybe even during the song, and change views to change what the switches do. That sort of thing. There's a lot of options for control. You can add switches. Which camera? You can add a switch like that. You can add an FC12. I'm not going to go get it. It's over there. But you can add an FC6. It's on the ground right here. So as I knock the XLR cable out, this is what's connected on the ground right now. Right now, it's just mimicking exactly what's on the FM3, but this is an FC6. It's the same size. It just has 6 switches, and you connect it with a single XLR cable. I did have an expression pedal plugged in here while on the floor, but I didn't want to lift that up too. But add this, and then you have 9 switches, and they do have a OMG9 layout. that incorporates the two in a very smart way. It can be a challenge. The question that started all of this, hey, it's Mr. Tom Quayle. Love your videos and everything you do. Saw you at NAMM, didn't quite get to say hi this past NAMM show, but so good to see you here. Thank you so much. Yeah, the FM3 is great. It's just the question that started this whole train of thought was, how do I go from GT22 with 22 switches and my AxeFX3 down to just 3 switches, fewer blocks, all of that sort of thing. And it really is just, you kind of gotta figure out what's important, what you need, and what you might be able to get away with, and what you don't need. Earlier, I compared my AxeFX3 layout of pretty much the same preset, and you can see I have additional shimmer verb, additional big long reverb, a compressor, and things like that. But I took it out on the FM3, and then paring it down a little bit on the FM3, I still have the same, pretty much same tones. I'm gonna stop that right there. too many bad notes. But yeah, so you can do a lot. And yeah, if the FM3 isn't for you, it just might not be for you. It totally does everything I need for my gigs. If you need all the blocks in the AxeFX3, you know, if you need all of this, and I've seen way crazier presets than this, that's what you need. It's like if you go from like even a Boss GT100, is that what they're called? And then you're like, oh, I want to just go down to a single chorus pedal. Well, I mean, clearly you can't do that if you need the other stuff in the pedal. Yeah. So it's kind of, what do you need? What can you get away with? That sort of thing. Might be close to wrapping this up. Oh, there, my camera died. So that's an indicator to A, get another power supply for the cameras, and B, probably wrap up this live stream here. Thanks so much for hanging out. I am going to end stream here. Thanks to admin Matt from Fractal, of course, for stopping by. That was a surprise. Mr. Tom Quayle, amazing player and gear reviewer and just awesome person in general, of course. That was great to see him here. And everyone else for popping in, asking questions, and checking it out. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'm glad people did stop in this time. Pretty inspiring to keep doing this. So again, thanks so much. I will see you guys with a camera that turns on next time and more Fractal audio stuff. Alrighty, have a good one. Stay safe out there, of course. Stay healthy and stay sane. Take a nap, take a walk, play guitar, do some things.